Hi, my name is Basil with Leaf and Limb, and today I want to show you some of the maintenance practices for a pocket forest. And you'll see different maintenance practices out there, but I want to show you what I think is sort of the basic requirements, and you can always do more. So in a nutshell, what we're after invasive plants. These are the sorts of plants that are typically not from this region, and they often can invade an ecosystem and actually take over or alter it in a substantial way. And the second category of plants we'll be looking for are invading plants. So like for example, here we have a pecan and a maple and a hackberry growing nearby. So they're going to be dropping a lot of seeds in this area. And particularly with maple and hackberry, they can be a bit problematic because they're often early succession species, just depends of course. Yeah, we're keeping an eye on those because we don't necessarily want those to alter what we're trying to grow. So let's go and let me just take you on sort of a tour of things that I'm looking at when I'm doing maintenance. First and foremost, I'm not worrying too much about herbaceous weeds. You know, yeah, if you want to pull out your crabgrasses and all these herbaceous weeds, feel free to do so. It doesn't hurt, but it's unnecessary work in my opinion, because this ecosystem is going to keep growing and it's going to shade those out. So long term, not a big concern. All right, let's head on back here and let me show you some stuff. All right, so first up here, we've got an invading species. This is a young black locust, and these are hyper aggressive. I do not want them growing in here. They will take over this ecosystem. They'll outgrow many of the different plants here. You can actually find these. There's another one right here. I'll pull it out so you can see it, but don't want this. It's going to be aggressive. I want to keep it out. And y'all, just for the sake of this video, I'm meandering around. The way I normally do this, I do lanes side to side. So I'll typically have about a 3-foot lane, and I sort of use plants as my marker. So in this case, I would be walking down this lane, and I'd have this magnolia as a marker here. And when I came back, I'd make sure that I'm using that as a marker. So I'm on this side, then I'm on this side. So take 2 3-foot wide lanes and just move slowly. But I want to just show you some stuff, so I'm not going to do lanes here. Here's an example of an invading plant. This is a water oak. We do have a water oak growing nearby. So there's a lot of squirrels moving acorns around. Find a lot of water oaks in here. In this case, I'm just going to pluck it right out. No big deal. Great tree, I love it, but I don't necessarily want to change what I'm trying to grow here. All right, let's keep moving this way. And watch out for that little fellow there. Here's another, so this is actually buckeye. It's already dropped its leaves for the season, but here are 2 more water oaks growing. Thank you, squirrels, for bringing those over. Again, love these trees, just don't want them right here. And also, when I do my weeding, I just drop the plant, just turns into compost. All right, here's some more examples. So here we have a young Japanese apricot growing. Birds spread these seeds. It's kind of in the thick of this ilex here. So, you know, this is one. You just got to keep an eye on these sorts of plants. Just gonna throw it in there. Here's another one. Now this is a red bud. There is a lot of red bud proliferation in this area. This is going to vary where you are. You can leave it, you can pull it out. It's just really up to you. In this case, I don't know if I planted that one or not. So one of the unfortunate things about this particular planting is we do not have markers. We actually used flags early on, and those flags get rusty and they drop their plastic after a couple of years. So really better to use like a bamboo stick or something. So I really encourage you to think about using a marker that will stay visible and relevant for at least 3 years. If we had bamboo markers, then I could at least know whether I planted that red bud or not. But it's not one that's going to take over the ecosystem like an oak might. I'm just going to let it be. You can make these decisions. Lots of gray space, right? You don't have to be perfect here. All right, now this is a Japanese dandelion of some kind. It's an invading herbaceous plant. Don't technically have to do anything with this. It's not going to outcompete any of the trees, but like, you know, it's just big and it's right here. I can't help myself. I'm going to have to just say goodbye to this one. And again, I usually just throw them down, let them die. Okay, these are examples of invading species. Let me show you a few invasive species, things that can actually take over your entire ecosystem. All right, number one, let's go back here. I'm going to show you some vines that always worry me. The vines here, we have two big problems for us are porcelain vine and English ivy. So I'll show you an example of porcelain vine. We've got this growing here. I definitely don't want this to be a thing, and it can definitely be a thing, so I'm going to just pluck it and leave it. We'll often find English ivy in spaces like this, and I'm not seeing any. I've got an example of English ivy at another spot that I'll show you. And while I'm here, let me show you one other sort of thing to look for, sort of on the margins. Like this is where a pocket forest merges with a Piedmont prairie or a meadow, doesn't matter the name. You'll often get a lot of things growing in this space. Here's a hackberry, young hackberry. This is a very aggressive species. It's not invasive, but it's an invader, and it's early succession, so it's gonna be a challenge later, so I don't want that growing. So I'll often comb the margins. All right, let's keep walking. I'll take you to some English ivy. Let's come through here. Oopsie. Don't watch out there, there's one there. Very good. All right, so back here you can see the beginnings of some English ivy. Often creeps in from neighboring properties or maybe just a bird seed. Yes, now, if you're asking yourself right now, how the heck do I do this? I don't know anything about plants. Well, this is where the markers are worth their weight in gold. If you don't know anything about invasive plants or early succession species that might become invaders and change what you've planted, then the way out is just simply stakes. Get good stakes, good markers, and then you know that anything that's not marked with a marker is something you didn't plant and you don't want it. So that's a pretty easy way to do it. All right, let's go over to another spot on this property and look at a couple other things. Okay, we're on the same property, different pocket forest. This one's in the front. I want to show you a couple other things. Let's walk this way and I'll point out some stuff as we go. First of all, one thing that's worth noticing is that there are gaps in this system. Not everything's going to make it. I think we planted about 220 trees here, and between 20 and 30 just didn't make it. You know, here's an example of one that just did not make it. There's others, and that's okay. It's part of the beauty of this system is that there's so much planted that it doesn't matter. We can have some attrition. We had a really hot summer this year, and we don't provide supplemental water for these systems, so they're on their own to survive. Many did not make it. There's another dead plant back there. You can see, and that's fine. Don't even sweat it. If you want to replant, sure, go for it. If you're cool with just letting it go, then that's fine. Stuff is growing. There's plenty of trees here. All right, I want to show you this. So here's an example of where there's a lot of herbaceous weeds growing. This is crabgrass, creeping Charlie, and again, your weed profile might be different where you are. This doesn't bother me. This is okay, so long as I can find the invasive plants and the invading plants. I'll show you two right here in this space. One, we have this English ivy growing up. If you couldn't have seen it when it was that small, no worries. It gets a lot bigger, makes itself a lot more obvious. And then two, we have right here another hackberry growing. Actually, this is, yeah, this is hackberry. So again, not something I want. if in doubt, feel free to just pull it out, you know, especially like crabgrass. It tends to just sort of have a central root system. So even just one pull right there, and I've just cleared a lot of space. And you can either throw this in your compost pile or just leave it in a pile here. Whatever makes you happy. Maybe you just like for things to look neat. That's fine. If you want to pull weeds, by all means, pull weeds. Can't hurt anything. I tend to be limited on time, so I try to focus on what I have to focus on. All right. Yeah, I think at this point, you know, I would be doing my short lanes here. So in this case, I'd be starting here and I just kind of walk slowly and carefully. Again, we didn't have good markers on the site. These flags did not work out. But in my lane, I know I've got my pawpaw here and a pawpaw here, and I'm not seeing anything else that I'm worried about. A little hackberry, great. You know, I don't want plastic. I'll pick up the trash as I go. And I'll just walk back and forth looking for stuff. It's really just about taking your time, but the truth be told, this doesn't take a ton of time. You can do, this site has, let's see, 800 and 1,000, it's about 2,000 square feet of pocket forest. Maintenance in a growing season. So here in North Carolina, the growing season is from May through October. You might only invest 8 hours doing maintenance for the whole growing season. That's only in the early years too. As this system grows up, it's not going to need any help. These trees are going to shade out everything else. You're not going to have to feed them. You're not going to have to add mulch. Here's another hackberry. The only thing you might have to do is just some pruning on the outer edges of the system, particularly structural pruning, so we don't have trees that are leaning and causing issues. And I'm just making lanes back and forth, moving in a systematic fashion, some more English ivy. And if you don't know these species, like I said, no big deal. You can also learn them. It's not a hard thing. You'll get used to what they look like. So yeah, it's a little overview. I would budget, we typically say about 4 hours per 1,000 square feet per growing season at a minimum. Could be variable. If you do like a clean look, you're going to invest more time, of course. Yeah, hope that's helpful.